So, great. Want me to start?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Did it.
Okay. First, I just want to say good evening. If you didn't catch my full name, I'm Ivani Butera, Director of New Milford Social Services, and I thank you, Town Council members and Board of Finance, and of course, Mayor, for giving us an opportunity to speak about our budget. For those of you who may not know our mission statement, New Milford Social Services, we offer resources and programs to enhance the well-being and the self-sustainability of New Milford residents that are experiencing psychosocial and economic adversity by addressing their basic needs, including food and household self-reliance. And I'll get into the psychosocial piece of it in a little bit. Before I get started, I just want to acknowledge, I have my 4 staff members here. I've got Monica Roberts, our office coordinator and the unofficial boss of all of us. Wanda Filer, who has been absolutely outstanding as our program and volunteer coordinator. She coordinates and, well, she manages about 25 to 30 weekly volunteers, Ray including one of them, who's absolutely wonderful. One of our newest food bank volunteers, Maria de Oliveira, social worker and diverse community advocate, and Alyssa Cole, the baby of the department, the newest member, 2.5 years, going on 3. Congratulations. And she is our social worker and our post-crisis navigator. So we'll get in a little bit about that in a little bit. As you can see from page 171 of the budget, you will notice that our shows, and this first slide, this is an opportunity to bring together 2 puzzle pieces, creating a bigger, cohesive piece to better meet the socio-economic concerns of all of the adult population of New Milford residents as it relates to those that are in financial crisis, experiencing high risk and vulnerabilities that impacts their well-being, aging in place, and aging with dignity. This we see as an opportunity to synchronize our collective response despite age. The field of human services does include, the field of human services is a bigger umbrella word that includes working with all ages of adults, youth, and seniors to enrich and enhance the well-being of these residents. Each town has different configurations of how they organize the work done by human service departments. So not every town is created equal, if you will, in terms of how they call them, how they organize them. New Milford has 3 human service providers. The youth agency with Jason, the senior center run by Jasmine, and us. This budget reflects a new configuration that is not unique, as I said, to other towns and states, and it does show the move of the 3 positions, which in addition to the municipal agents includes a seasonal assistant to the municipal agents. Okay, so this slide helps understand a little bit about what the duties, responsibilities, charges that are pressed upon these positions in terms of helping the community. As you can see, I tried to highlight in purple, there's an overlap of what we all do. We all do an economic and benefit needs assessment. We all do information referral. We do assistance with applications, community resource awareness, and then referrals to any sort of extended services. Protective services is listed for municipal agents, primarily because they are protected class with a lot of vulnerabilities. There are no adult protective services for young disabled in New Milford, so we have to think out of the box for that. But still, we try to do what we can. In addition to that, social workers. Social workers, and in the case of this department, they're licensed social workers. They're able to provide a psychosocial assessment added to that needs assessment for people who are seeking services. They use these assessments to understand a client's current living situation, their social support, their mental and emotional health. They can perform comprehensive inquiries and offer guidance and intervention and connect individuals to resources, managing challenges like trauma or chronic stress. Psychosocial refers to the interconnection of internal and external factors and experiences that impact someone's ability to enhance or maintain their emotional well-being, their health and their mental health, and if their ability to become or remain self-reliant, maintain their quality of life with dignity. With this new configuration, our goal is to strengthen the town's response to the internal and external factors that impact all adults we work with, to help them with their self-sustainability and quality of life. What does that really mean? It means that when you come in looking for, you have a need, you have a financial need, you have a benefit you're looking to search for, whether it is something you're lacking, like heat, finances to adjust to an increase in rent, or something else that might be going on in your life. There's added stressors that people have. There's things in their life. There could be past trauma. There could be current situations, a change in medical condition in someone's spouse or themselves. They could be coming out of a domestic violence situation or intimate partner violence situation. There's a lot of factors that prevent us sometimes from that self-actualization, from that moving forward. What our workers do, what our social workers do, is they recognize and are able to realize that there's some people who just have more going on and need more, they need to be worked with a little bit more. They're not going to be able to just say, hey, just go get a job. Here's a few jobs. Do your go on Indeed, get the job, and see. There's some folks that are struggling to keep those jobs. So if they're struggling to keep those jobs and we're able to look at resources, maybe we connect them to a job coach, help them get through whatever might be in front of them, whatever obstacle that might be impede them from moving forward. Sorry with the wordiness. It's just the best I can do. What I wanted to talk about with this slide, and I want to continue to talk about the social workers before I get into the rest of what social services does, is our social workers, they spend a lot of their time, they spend about 70% of their time going beyond those applications, those connections of financial resources, those basic needs that I'll talk about in the next slide. And again, like I said, they are there to help people figure out what the obstacles are that are impeding their path. How can we connect them to resources? They work closely with community partners. This is just a short list of community partners that we constantly are communicating with. We're advocating for our clients. We're helping them build those relationships. We're trying to help them move through. We talk about strength-based approach. And I want to talk a little bit about strength. Because when somebody comes in and they're stressed out and they're looking to get something done, something has changed. They've moved into a different chapter in their life, whether naturally, because they're getting a bit older, whether their relationships are falling apart, or whatever it is. But they're coming in, and sometimes we're going to be able to do what we can do in-house, but we need to connect them to partners. It's going back to the second slide. It's what we all do in both centers. We connect people to resources. And what we realize is that there's going to be some people who just can't quite do that. Or they come in and they come in and they feel like, oh, geez, I'm in social services. I must be at the bottom. And actually, you're not. You're actually doing pretty well. Because when you're able to step through doors and say, listen, something's going on. I can't take care of it myself. I need a little bit of help. You're courageous. And you need to be commended for that. I throw an analogy with my team all the time, and I do this with the folks that I sit across the desk with too, is I don't know much about baseball, but I know enough to know that everybody gets a chance up to bat. But as everybody successfully goes around the plates, you're benefiting the entire team. So the person sitting across my desk happens to be the coach, pitcher, the main person, the name of the team. So if I come along and I help out a little bit, I advance them. We get them connected to the center, we get them connected to Abilities Beyond, we get them connected to End Hunger, we get them help them find a job coach, or get them connected to the American Job Center and they get some training. That's another person up to bat. And all we're doing is helping them. Sometimes they're going to stumble. And so what these wonderful professionals do is they sit there and say, okay, come on, let's get back up again. And if there's something in their way that we can address, then we can just be like, hey, can you clear that path? Or can you give them another chance? Or let's build that up again. Let's fill that little hole. If that's what tripped them, let's do something. We don't do it for them, we do it with them. Or we educate them how to do it themselves. Because again, it's about self-reliance. It's about empowerment. But that's the kind of gist of it. And right now, so what we do is that, we're not long-term case managers. We don't do long-term therapy, counseling. What we do is crisis intervention. What we do is short-term care management. Support management is how I like to refer to it. And right now, Alyssa and Maria are carrying about 35 to 40 people each that they're seeing several times in a given month, sometimes in a given week, because somebody just came right back in and be like, Maria, you told me to go ahead and do this. I meant to go. I can't. Can you just help me motivate again? We work with young disabled. Some of them have the ability to go to work part-time. That itself can be a hard thing to navigate. Social Security Administration can be hard to navigate. Trying to do both can be hard to navigate. You can only make a certain amount. Sometimes you get a little overtime. You didn't get paperwork in. They found out 5 years later. So now you need a little bit of help because something's going on. And there's an adjustment or something. Alyssa spends, I don't know how many hours on the phone with Social Security, trying to get these folks to make sure that their benefits aren't going to be going away because that's how they're paying their rent. Lots of changes with Eversource. Folks that were on budgets that were able to be negotiated are no longer able to be on those budgets that are able to be negotiated. So there's lots of changes. So we're having people to navigate and rearrange their budgets, understanding what their priorities are. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. It also takes a lot of emotional understanding because you're dealing with folks that are elevated. They're anxious. The anxiety is there. And with that sometimes can come a difficulty in understanding. How many times has anybody gone into visit a doctor and wanted to bring somebody with them just because they wanted to say, listen, help me hear what the doctor is saying because I have a strong feeling my ears are going to be shutting down halfway through this conversation. Be my support. That's what these professionals do. Post-crisis navigator was not a new position, it was a new configuration of a position. Again, post-crisis navigator, they used to just be called the full-time social worker, who was also the volunteer and program coordinator, which, as Pete, you mentioned, was me, up until about 7 years ago. Post-crisis navigator was basically, we saw, the mayor saw, and the community saw that there was a lot of mental health issues, there was a lot of relationship issues, there was violence going on out there, there were people that were slipping through the cracks, and so this gave the opportunity for the social worker to Again, we took that position out, gave it Wanda, became the program and volunteer coordinator, and the social worker was able to be a full-time social worker and be able to then handle those cases and have the opportunity to see people multiple times, whether it be in person, by email, or by phone, or even sometimes by text. Especially there's certain populations out there that a phone call is not discreet enough. They need to text for one reason or another. So lots of opportunities. And that means you need to be there, and you need to be there to answer those calls when they're happening. The homeless, we do work with the homeless. We try to work in conjunction with the police department and with Officer Schneider with that. But we have a lot of the homeless that come in. They need to connect to services. They need to, sometimes they need to get their ID or get their social security cards or get connected to SNAP or need a phone or something and food. They're going to find their way to us. And so then Alyssa deals a lot with our homeless population and tries to, again, strengthen that relationship with the community outreach workers from Danbury. And again, advocate for them. They didn't answer their phone. Well, I don't know where the phone died. They're here with me now. Can you take this call now? Because they need to finish that evaluation. They need to get into the system, because the way Connecticut works is you have to be in the system in order to find housing or get connected to services that then will help you then obtain and sustain housing. So we work with a lot of that. Our diverse community advocate. We have a growing diverse community. Sometimes, English is their second language. Their proficiency in English, especially in reading English, the English language and some of these things, is a challenge to them. And again, another obstacle in them completing what they need to complete, whether it's just filling out free lunch, reduced lunch, registering for school, advocating with teachers. I myself came from an immigrant mother who I don't think she would have felt confident enough advocating for herself with a teacher, just because sense of authority in other cultures, and there's a lot of impediment. Maria speaks Portuguese and Spanish, so we're extremely grateful that we have. I don't know. I'm hoping. I'm sure there is other trilingual employees, but we're very grateful to have her. Wanda is a Spanish-speaking person also, so we have two. We have a bilingual and unofficially Monica does excellent with Spanish and Portuguese, actually. So the diverse community advocate, she works with a lot of our refugees, our asylum seekers, our immigrants that are in the middle of their obtaining their citizenship, and they have connection. They need more connections to immigration lawyers and so forth. She also works with high-risk folks, even if English is their first language. So it's beyond the diversity. She's not exclusive to that. So she does keep her own caseload of domestic violence cases or medical or mental health issues, young disabled. That again need that kind of help, that navigation through services and systems. I'm going to talk about the other stuff that we do, and jump in if there's any questions, of course. But the social workers are not just charged with handling all those kinds of cases, those complex life situations, those obstacles that impede people from moving forward, connecting to services, meeting their basic needs. They also just do the work, the groundwork. They're doing heating applications. We did 344 applications last year. Home and basic needs, I kind of lump that in with our emergency funds. It's our Good Samaritan Fund, for those that know that fund, the Hope Fund, and I think I even put our Renters Rebate applications there. That's 172 applications. ARPA, we received ARPA funding a few years back. 197 applications, that was fiscal year. We were actually up to 206 with those funds. That's a lot of work. That's an intense application. Food vouchers, gift cards, and then camperships. And as Jason mentioned, we work with the youth agency, we work with Park and Rec, and we do all the means tests for anybody who's looking for a scholarship through both those programs. So we bring them in, we assess that situation. It's a wonderful marriage of services because, again, exposing your financial situation, that's a vulnerability, so we keep that confidential. It also gives us an opportunity to, once we've done that for their scholarship, to say, if you realize there's so much more we can do, and so we now, they're now recurring folks that come in for energy assistance. Maybe they're attending the food bank. And some of the other things that we do that you may or may not be aware of, with the United Way, we run the Back to School program. Last year we helped 260 children. We run the Thanksgiving program, the food program, with the Wonderful Help of the United Way and the Women's Club. And that was 300 families. Santa Fund, everybody might know about the Santa Fund. Last 2 years, we have hit over 500 children. We did 568. I've never seen numbers like that before. Never. I used to freak out when I saw 400. So we're doing that. We've connected 42 children this year to winter boots. That's a wonderful program that comes out of the high school called the STAR Project, done by the French Honor Society. That's okay.
A big, huge thank you to our community.
Absolutely.
The time and again come to the need for the kids, all the ones that donate. A big, huge thank you to the police department for their, fill up their truck. And then also you have Oddfellows. Do just such a fabulous job.
Not to mention the infamous Jen Arnu.
Oh yeah,
and her wonderful team.
I was just going to say,
of
Jen does
businesses that support.
Fantastic work with her and her team.
Yeah.
It's just great to just see the community just continue to rally together to help.
Yeah.
And you guys were very helpful with us when we actually helped another community.
We did.
And that was the community in North Carolina. It was tragically devastated. And I know we housed all the wonderful community donations in your side of the building there to help out and give a big, huge helping hand. And Katie, big thank you to you as you were able to go through Kimberly Clark to also get some of those big needs that the community in North Carolina needed. So again, the community rallying. Big thank you to you
There's
guys.
a lot of wonderful community members. I try to list them every year in the annual report, which is online, so please read it. So we do, we run a lot of programs, and the social workers are in all of it because they're the ones that have to do the means testing. They're the ones that have to make sure, do they qualify for this program or that program? What else can they qualify? And doing that. In addition to, again, everything they do that is taking a lot more of their time these days. I said I'd bring it back to the money, and someone teased me that I don't have revenue. However, the programs that we're able to connect, heating assistance, emergency funds, the ARPA funds, vouchers and gift cards to food, and our SNAP matches at the farmers market, which I'll mention in a second. Our camperships are just some of the programs, and we've brought over $588,000 back into our local economy. By being able to provide those services. Those are direct, most of those usually are direct to vendor, and not only help sustain the people that are receiving those services, but of course are helping the local businesses maintain theirs. So that's our revenue, Katie. Not bad.
Not
It's
bad.
okay. It's okay. I need to shout out to the fact if somebody who doesn't know about our emergency funds or does not know about how the food bank functions in terms of the food or the money to buy the food, it is all donations. If there's one thing you will not see in our budget, it is money provided to emergency funds. There is no Good Samaritan line in that budget. There is no Hope Fund line in that budget. the fund we share with the Senior Center Community Field Bank, you won't see it in either one of our budgets. And of course, the food of the food bank. Everything is run by donations. The food bank also wouldn't function without the 25 to 30 volunteers that run that program. Because when you're looking at 250 families on average coming in every Thursday in a 7-hour period, that's a lot of people to get in and out. And again, we're not just giving them a bag of food, so it is not a drive-by, it is not a handoff. They're in there with respect and with dignity. They're allowed to pick their choices. For some, it's even a social content. It's a quite wonderful thing that happens there. I'm going to draw your attention to the middle chart. We're serving more people. We continue to serve more people. That's just the last, say, 5 years since 2023. Last year, we registered over 2,400 people. I think we're up to about 8.5% of the town's population has come to the food bank. And it just keeps growing. And have sought out our services. And we've served thousands and thousands of meals with that. The food bank is, it's not usually the thing that brings people in the first time. It's usually the last time. I don't know, the family I grew up in, it's like, don't worry, I can handle my food. Again, it adds to that vulnerability. It adds to that. So kudos to the folks that are able to come in. Again, I go to that strength base. I go to that courage that folks have. We do serve folks of all ages, and we have for over a decade and two.
Ivana, there's another asset for the food bank is that when the people come in, and you have alternate days, and you'll let them, if they need to come on a Tuesday rather than a Thursday. But what I've noticed in the years, 10 years now of being around there, is there's opportunities in the bulletin boards for jobs.
Yes.
There's opportunities for maybe they need English, help with learning English. There's opportunities there. And they meet people. We even one time did some voting registration. I sat there and talked to people when they came in to see if they wanted to register to vote. Some of them could, some couldn't. But I think the camaraderie or the friendship that when you walk in the door, I've had people tell me, I didn't go to the food bank because when I pulled in, I saw somebody I knew. Mm. And that, you brought this up earlier, and then I say, well, what do you think they're for? So you go back, but it is a welcoming place. I know it's a school. I went to that school. I know it's a hallway, but it's a very welcoming atmosphere. And once you step inside, the volunteer that's here, everybody is pleasant. And once you step inside the little opportunity, I call it a mini mart or whatever, it's everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, Ivana, Kate just said for a moment, big thank you to you guys as we go through these numbers every week. And when we made the change to really move social work to true social work, and we brought in Wanda at the food bank, we were only at that time, it was just Thursdays. That was kind of it. Mm-hmm. And then you and Wanda had worked out where now it's so client-centric that if somebody can't make it because of work, and before that, if they were working, they're out of luck. Mm-hmm. Well, now you guys have been able to make it to where if people don't have that, they have by appointment, they can come in and get their food to really help that sustainability. Mm-hmm. Also in partnership with the Senior Center, there are some clients that can't make it down to there, so they're dropped off either at the Senior Center or our office. Mm-hmm. So a big thank you to you guys. You thought kind of outside of the box. Mm-hmm. How can we work it to really become more client-centric and help more people? And a big kudos to you guys for doing it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not just food. I want to interrupt you for one thing.
Yeah.
It's not just food. There's hygiene drives that Rotary and United Way do together, but those are the kinds of things. It's not just the drives that we do to collect things, but it's those are the very expensive items, you know, we don't think about deodorant, hair,
Knights of
shampoos and
Columbus
stuff.
with their coats,
Absolutely.
and then Jen going full
Yep.
blast and getting
So it's a,
scarves,
yeah,
gloves.
it's really almost like a one-stop shop for
Awesome.
anybody in need. You could find something there, I think.
Yeah, it becomes an all-encompassing kind of a resource. Speak to the special arrangements and the appointments that we can make. And again, Wanda was able to build a successful volunteer team where we are able to bring in a few volunteers that can help us one day a week in the late afternoons. And we do have some working folks or folks that are um, very vulnerable due to medical reasons. So kind of sitting in the crowd in the hallway for one reason or another causes a bit of a detriment to their health. So this is a way for them to come in late afternoon and then again come in after work and not having to miss it, because the food bank goes only traditionally is 9 to 4, and that's going back 30 something years. So this is a way for them to come a little bit later. So Wanda does stay late. We all stay, some of us will all stay late on Wednesdays and do that. That has been a growing program. We were actually kind of at a max for that we're able to provide. But there are other special arrangements. So again, between the social workers and Wanda, there's a lot of negotiation going on. Again, these ladies are advocates, so they're not just advocating with outside resources, they're advocating with their own coworkers to say, how can I get food to this family who just can't make it in a certain day? And so accessibility is an obstacle in town. So again, we do, and we love the fact that the senior center is able to bring the bus down and get a lot of our seniors who mobility and accessibility and transportation are an issue. So it becomes a wonderful way to serve. And you know, currently we're serving, we have over 405 households that are active currently. Last year we registered over 850 families, households of various configurations. But when you're looking at about 235 to 250 families that come weekly, you're looking at over half of these families that are active or coming more frequently, which of course then means more food going out the door, more food that needs to come in the door. And we do it all. We go get the food, we rescue food, we buy food, we bring food in, we sort through donations, we do everything, Wanda and her team.
Yvonne, I know, sorry, I know it's getting late for everybody,
Yeah, I'm
but just so
sorry.
people know really how important your department is really to the entire community, and how it really provides really help. If we didn't have it, it would be really detrimental in so many ways, both economically, socially, emotionally. If you could talk about two things real quick. One is really we saw the uptick in domestic violence,
Yeah.
and how you guys interplay as really being the intermediary, and then you pass on kind of the long-term needs to, say, the center, which I'm a huge fan of. And then also, if you could talk a little bit right after that about critical needs. So for instance, a few years ago, we had a fire that was in the condos, not the new ones over there on Lanesville, but the older ones. And with that fire, there was a whole bunch of people displaced. And then what do you guys do as social work to help provide that safety net to make sure that people had at least a place to go to? Because I think that's important. You guys do so many things.
Right.
Here's another two things
And
that you guys do.
again, that's an example again of a trauma that's happened, an unexpected life incident that happens that has longer effects on someone's ability to move forward, not just financially, but then again having to readjust, shift their path, let go of, one way of thinking, or I need to continue to do this, but it's not working for them, helping them change that. So it's like, we see this a lot, unfortunately, with housing. Sometimes people are so far behind in the amount of rent that they own or that they owe that there's not enough financial assistance and there's not enough income in that household to maintain where they are. And so the conversation has to shift to how can we divert them. We don't want them to go into homelessness. How can we divert them from where they are to get something more sustainable? How can we help them understand that's not a direction that's probably going to continue to work for you. If the rent has gone up by $400 and your income is short by $300. So there's a lot of things that need to be discussed.
And everything you just said is a good reason that the municipal agents will have the background that all of you have, and at their beck and call, I would say. If you need something, that you have.
Well, my hope is my hope is to be able to on a more consistent basis and have that opportunity to be there for them, to help support the work that they're doing,
Right.
they're currently doing, because there are a lot of factors that happen that do go beyond the simple benefit needs
It's a
or
positive.
economic needs, and it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of things that need to be kind of worked through.
But you're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
I have no doubt you
yeah,
all will do that.
fires don't discriminate against age. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate against age. Raising rent doesn't discriminate against age.
Right.
Trauma, none of this stuff is limited to families with children or young adults, young adult disabled, or those above the age of 60. We hope that our experience, our knowledge, and our discipline as social workers, our approach, our motivational interviewing, our strength-based approach to try to build people up will be able to contribute to the senior population of our town. Just the end with the two programs that were offsets of sprouted out of the food bank. One is the SNAP at the farmers market. 2 years ago, we were able to, SNAP at the farmers market is a way for folks to use their SNAP benefits. A lot of seniors take advantage of this program, and a lot of growing families, we're seeing more. Again, Wanda runs that program. It's every Saturday, so she has a 6-day week for about 5 or 6 months out of the year, 6 or 7 months out of the year.
I get to see you in the alley there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
From apple
Yes.
cider donuts.
Yeah, and our wonderful long-term volunteer, Allie, who's been amazing. But that is a way for them to take their SNAP benefits, and we're able to receive funding where they get matched. So if somebody's only able to spend $10 in their SNAP benefits, then which for some people who've been around a long time, it used to be called food stamps. We're able to then match those funds so that $10 becomes $20, and they're able to then benefit from the local farmers. And one of the side things that we try to do with all these programs that we do is we try to reduce that inequity that happens when finances become an issue. So you fear going to the farmers market because it's too expensive and you can't afford it. We're going to help bridge that gap. And so that program has been a growing program, and it's a win-win because the farmers are actually, they've gained. We last year was, or 2 years ago, was over $11,000 we were able to provide to the farmers in revenue. Did I add that in? I only added in the matches. This year was over $8,000, but it's because SNAP benefits have gone down, so there's less to work with. The other program that's only 2 years old is a summer lunch program. So again, thinking out of the box, trying to meet these needs. When school is out, New Milford children don't have lunch, and it becomes another financial stress on families. And so I basically looked at Wanda and said, "What can you do?" And she came up and said, "This is what we're going to do." And so we helped over 300 children last summer. Every 2 weeks, we were able to provide them with 2 huge bags. Every child, not every family. So if a child has 3 kids, each child got a large loaf of bread, 2-3 pounds of lunch meat, vegetables, fruit, and various amount of snacks to help them. And a lot of families have come back to Wanda and said thank you. Some of them weren't even going to go to camp because they didn't have lunch, because camps can't provide the lunch, and you need a lunch that is portable. You don't have the lunchbox, you don't have the microwave, you don't have hot lunch that they're all used to during school. So it's a benefit, and we're looking forward to, last year, that long orange column up there, is that we gave away over 1,000 of those lunch bags. Some people stopped coming. Wanda would call them up and say, "You didn't come last week. You know, we only have like one more distribution." They said, "I'm still working off what you gave me the other time." So, you know, I think maybe we're giving away a lot of food, but that's okay. And thank you to the youth agency in that regard, because they're wonderful in helping us prepare those bags. We are able to give back to our community in that way. And we also, through the food bank, we try to be as sustainable as possible. And so we have a composting program, and the youth agency helps us to, instead of throwing out expired food, we compost it. So we try to do a lot of that. I've taken up a lot of your time. The situation has taken up a lot of your time, so I thank you for your patience. I thank you.
Actually, before you go, Ivana,
Yep.
this is Ari Rosenberg.
Hi, Ari.
From in tonight. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you very much for an excellent presentation tonight of all the services you provide to the community. We're really fortunate to have you. You're really helping people when they're going through, you know, the worst time in their lives, and I think you're really just doing the Lord's work. I had just a couple questions for you. One is with the homeless population in Milford. Do we have a sense of how many homeless people there are in Milford right now?
I think we have a bit of a sense of that, and I'm hoping to get more information once the point in time has been calculated by Catholic Charities. But I believe the shelter has a rotating schedule of about 8 to 12 people that are coming through their shelter. With the amount of people that Alyssa has been helping the last 6 months, and not all the homeless folks are sticking around, but we counted over 20 that we've seen in the last, say, 6 to 8 months. It was about 20. Some of them have moved into housing, some of them have moved into long-term shelter, like ARC's shelter, and then moved into supportive housing or long-term housing, and then some people are just moving on. But that's the rough numbers, Ari?
Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you. So it's like 8 to 12 that have availed themselves of the shelter. And are there other people that are choosing not to use the shelter? Are there like people living out of their cars or anything like that?
Yeah, so when we were, there are, I would say we knew about 3 or 4 people. We have about 3 or 4 people that we are aware of are living out of their cars. Some of them are you know, most of them are connected to the homeless outreach workers. They're in the system. They're waiting for that connection to services. Some of them are still trying to make that decision of how to connect and when to connect. Yeah, and you know, then there are, of course, there's folks that you know don't count as homeless but are house sharing and staying with families and friends until they can get their own place, and those are kind of again, you know, it's you know that it's not necessarily the best scenario, but they don't count as homeless.
Sure. I see in the line item for the shelter, it's only about $700 for this current year, not the coming fiscal year. Do you need any more financial support, like for supplies or anything? Because I do have a state grant, and I could provide some supplies if they're needed.
Oh, I thank you for that. That part in the budget is the emergency shelter. That is usually reserved for that 1 or 2 night stay at a hotel because there's an interruption to your current living arrangements. So it's not necessarily money that is for, like, say, the New Milford Community Shelter. They have their own funds. So that's kind of reserved that way. And we have brought that up a little bit over the years just because, but those are usually somebody who has a sustainable plan, but for one reason or another needs to go into a hotel stay and really just can't afford it. Something interrupted that, or they're about to get into housing, but it's not going to come through to the 1st. Today's the 28th. They need a couple of days. We don't want them outside. It's cold out, but there's a plan moving forward, so there's an end to that. But we can definitely talk about, yeah, we can definitely have that conversation. Absolutely. I'd love to hear more about that and then see what more we can do. for folks beyond those situations. Thank
Sure.
you.
And my last question was really about the food pantries. I've noticed, like, at the food pantries that I run in Danbury, our last 5 distributions, or our largest 5 distributions ever in Danbury. Are you seeing an increase in the last month in
Yes.
numbers?
Yeah, we have. We 250 is becoming our average. That when we see, we're not shocked to see 250. We're seeing 235, and we've gone up over 20%. But yes, it's the winter months, and when people are deciding to, if they're going to buy that extra oil, which everybody's going through a lot faster because of all the snow, then food becomes the one budget they pull from. So. Yeah, we are, and that's again, it's something that we've talked about. It's you can definitely look at the sign of your economy, and the environment, and what's going on out there that makes people come in a lot more often. And I would say it has been the snow and the excess heating. Even probably people are going through their gas. If I don't know enough about cars, but I'm assuming we go through gas quicker when it's cold out. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for our town.
Thank you, Ari. I really appreciate that.
Any other questions? Mary Jane?
The amount of work that social service does is just absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
You just grow the agency. I can't even describe it. It's
Right.
like
Thank you.
amazing.
Yep.
And same with the senior center that they do. They expanded it.
Absolutely.
So much work. And I really believe that both these departments need more help. And I mentioned it to you. I thought maybe a better solution, rather than, changing the municipal agents, under your jurisdiction, that they should hire a social worker. It seems, and that would kind of solve that a little bit. Because you guys have so much work to do that I'm getting really concerned, that the burden that they have.
Mary Jane, one of the things we'll be looking at is Ivana. We have our weekly meetings, the data points. Come August, we'll be able to kind of have a run rate of about 6 months where we can see and plan and see the need. And maybe we do recalibrate some of the staff, add additional staff if we can actually do it, make sure this budget gets passed, and see about adding additional resources.
I mean, we see the amount of work.
Absolutely.
Of course. But we're lucky that we have what we have, because you're gonna start with, you start working with them and start to set what, see what is needed or not needed, or however you do it. And then from there, if it continues, then you could look at something else. But I think they have a great foundation with, as you said, everybody that's there.
Yeah, my approach really, and I've talked to Mayor Bass about this when he asked, to this to get done, is really just to enhance the current amazing work that they are doing, because of the complex issues that lie beyond the paperwork, that brings people either falling through the cracks or coming back for services. So we're just hoping to enhance that. Yeah.
Any
Go
other
social.
questions for Ivana? Ivana, thank you. Thank your
Thanks.
team.
Thank you so much for your time,
Outstanding.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, guys. Thank you. All right, Mark.
Okay. Lake Authority, page 186. Martin, aren't you going to come up? Ah. Nice to see you.
And it's page 186.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Mark Howarth. I'm the Executive Director of the Candlewood Lake Authority. I'm actually joined by Will Meikle, who's our treasurer and a delegate on our board, and our chairman, Martin O'Connor, sitting in the
And
back.
Mark, before you start, we have some new members on the council
Yeah.
and Board of Finance. Just a quick synopsis. We are part of the towns that surround the lake, so it's not just New Milford. We have Brookfield, Danbury, New Fairfield, Sherman. Did I leave anybody else out?
No, you got
right?
it.
So that's all of us. We have delegates that represent the town of New Milford, and by charter, when the delegates all vote, they'll vote for, say, this budget that's being prepared for us right now. That's what the charter says that we do go with, because those delegates represent the town. So that being said, I'd ask Mark, as they do come each and every year, to present to us what really Kennewood Lake Authority does for us, not only enforcement-wise, safety-wise, but also environmentally. Mark, thank you.
Thank you. So just a little bit of background about the Lake Authority, especially since we do have some new members here. We are entering our 55th year as an organization. I know. As an organization, yep. 55th year. Another interesting milestone is actually this year marks the 100th anniversary of the start of construction of the lake.
That's right.
So 1926, they started construction of the lake. So yeah, pretty amazing. 100 years that they started the construction of it. So our organization, as I said, it's our 55th year. When we started out, we were essentially started out as a public safety organization with a Marine Patrol. There was a need for public safety on the lake. And a few short years later, the leaders of the 5 municipalities around the lake got together and said, hey, there's some water quality issues that are cropping up on the lake. We also need you guys to address the water quality. So that's how we became sort of a dual purpose agency, with the Marine Patrol providing the safety for the boaters so that they can recreate safely, and the environmental side to protect this amazing, valuable asset that we have for future generations. So that's a little bit about us. We also do, there's other things we do which some people may not realize. One of them is, if you go out on that lake, you will see close to 100 different hazard and navigation and speed buoys. We deploy those every year. We maintain them throughout the summer. We remove them every fall. That's one of the jobs that our operations manager does, is making sure that when you're out there navigating the lake, you can do so safely. And we also do a lot of public awareness and outreach, so different events that we do, but also utilizing different platforms, especially social media, for our outreach. So I'm just going to go over a couple quick things here. Just talk about a few of the priorities that we have for 2026. So at the end of 2025, at the end of the summer of 2025, prior to Labor Day weekend, we had met with the leaders of the 5 municipalities around the lake, First Light, and also the Department of Energy and Environmental Conservation, both on the ENCON police side and the boating side. And we came to a decision at that time that the islands of the lake were being overcrowded, and there were health concerns on the islands of the lake. These are very small islands. So the islands were closed indefinitely at that point. And so going into this year, that indefinite closure remains. However, we are working to find long-term sustainable solutions for the reopening of those islands so that they can be managed and people can safely enjoy them. So that is one of the priorities going into this year. Another thing that's been going on, we're entering our 3rd year of it, is sort of a project that maybe flies a little bit under the radar, but is extremely important environmentally. And that is what we call the nutrient budget, or the nutrient pollution study on Candlewood Lake. So what we are working to understand, something that's never been done before, is understanding where the nutrients that are in the lake that can help to fuel algae blooms, where those nutrients are coming from. So 2 summers ago, we studied what is coming out of the lake bed, this former farmland that was flooded.
That's right.
Almost 100 years ago. What nutrients are coming out of the lake bed? That's known as internal loading. And we took hundreds and hundreds of water samples, and we used the University of Connecticut lab, and that was done in the summer of 2024. Last summer, we studied what's coming in off the watershed. So we did stream studies, and it's still actually going on, studying what's coming in off the watershed and the streams, right? And then this coming year, we've been working with the health departments of the 5 municipalities, doing some test shallow wells to understand what's coming in through the groundwater. And so when all that data then gets compiled and analyzed and turned into a report, that will give us the knowledge to provide management recommendations for the long-term future of the lake. It's hard to make recommendations on how to manage nutrient pollution when you don't really have a firm understanding of exactly what those sources are, because each of those types of sources is a different management, potential solution. And then the last thing I just want to touch on, we've actually been working on legislative changes, exploring legislative changes for the lake. The recreational environment and the usage of the lake, whether it's the type of vessels or the usage patterns of the lake, while the recreation has advanced over the years, the regulations and the laws that help keep people safe really haven't kept up with the changes in what's going on the water. And this is something that a lot of lakes and states and everything are dealing with. So we're working on trying to address some legislative changes that will help us better protect the public out there on the lake so that everybody can go out and enjoy the lake safely and return home after having a nice time on the water. And last thing I'll just mention quickly is we talked about some of the public awareness we do. We're also now entering our 3rd season of producing educational videos for the public. These are short clips, about a minute long or so. We do them both for public safety, where we inform public about specific rules and regulations and things that are going on in the water for boating safety, as well as environmental topics. And we found that they've gotten a really great response from the public. They enjoy it, and we just met today. We have a whole list of new topics. We won't be able to film them all this year, but we have some in the pipeline that are already filmed to start the year off, and then we'll film more throughout the year. So I'm gonna hand it over to Will quickly to do numbers, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So as the mayor said, what we ask of the 5 towns is to equally divide our budget between them and take that through your referendum processes, and then that will be done. But our request of this year of each municipality is $132,815. That's a 2% increase, or $2,615 year to year from the current budget we're in to this. Overall, our budget in totality is up 4%, but we were able to raise some of our donations that we received from the public at large, as well as one of the grants we received from the state of Connecticut, so to mitigate that. So we're only asking for 2%, which is about what we asked last year as well. Overall, our changes really come in 3 places. One is the administration side of it, which is really Mark and his team that run the organization. Public safety, where we have our Marine Patrol officers and the vessels. And then conversely, the other way is our watershed budget is actually down. And it's down because, as Mark mentioned, our nutrient budget, we think that's fully funded. While the study is not complete yet, we think all the financial aspects have been dealt with through the last 3 years worth of budgets. And so we've put that aside and are deploying that as we go. The other thing that I will show, particularly for the new members here, is we've been working to modernize the Kennewood Lake Authority over the last 5 years. If you don't know it, we've purchased 3 new Marine Patrol vessels over the last 3 years. Our 3rd one came in this past August. With that, we've been modernizing the technology we deploy on those boats, which is we now have laptops, modems, and antennas so they can connect out on the water. And we just recently signed a software as a service contract so that all the contacts that we have with the public, whether that's a result of infractions or just normal meeting, can be documented on the water while they're there and not have to spend extra hours after shift to document all of that.
And a big, huge thank you to the council when you needed the additional funding, capital funding for the boats, which you guys came and presented.
Yes.
And Board of Finance, big, huge thank you to those boards to allow for what you're talking about
Thank you, thank
Canada
you.
Lake Authority.
We did, 5 years ago, put a concerted effort into a 10-year capital plan, much like you all do. We decided we needed to do that same discipline, and so we put that in place. So, good straight man to the next subject. So, we have revised our 10-year capital plan. For the most part, our capital acquisitions are behind us. So, we purchased the 3 new Marine Patrol vessels. The board approved 2 years ago the purchase of a new science vessel that is due to be delivered this spring. We purchased a new vehicle to pull those vessels in and out of the water and tow them to various parades around the towns. And then we're going to purchase some new personal watercrafts that our current ones are at end of life. So with the exception of that, there's nothing big in front of us other than the fact that, you know, occasionally we're going to have to replace some motors on those vessels. So, yeah, Katie.
How about the carp?
How about the carp?
You asked that last year.
How about the carp?
You tried to, I didn't hear you mention the carp, so what's up?
Yeah, so you know, the carp last year, you know, DEEP has been primarily running the program to try to slowly remove some of the carp to encourage the vegetation to grow back.
Right.
We have seen signs, especially towards the tail end of the year, when the carp have slowed their eating, that the vegetation starts to regrow, but we have not yet seen a bump during the season where the vegetation regrows. We were hoping this winter, that we would have a shallow drawdown on the lake, which means that the water only goes down 4 to 5 feet.
Right.
Because of the extreme cold that we had this winter, the power company received a request from the grid to generate more electricity. So that meant they drew down to a deep drawdown level. With the lake, there's always a little give and take. So the deep drawdown would typically kill more vegetation off. The flip side to that that's potentially beneficial is a deep drawdown will kill off more exposed zebra mussels.
The zebras, right.
Yeah, so there's always a little, you know, it's always a little flip side. The carp are under the water shivering and along with the other fish.
Yeah,
but
they're forever. Let's
yeah, so but Deep does those removals. We do, you know, work with them on that. They've had more success in the springtime when they do those removals as opposed to the fall. Okay. So typically they front load their removals in the spring. I don't necessarily want to quote a number that they've taken out, but it's usually a couple hundred a year that have come out for the past few years. So, you know, we're just sort of waiting to see when the scale will tip and we'll sort of see that regrowth.
But the vegetation is so far, but
it's still not able to get ahead of the eating from the carp. It's, you know, got knocked down. I mean, it's still there. It's still trying. So it's not that it's, you know, the carp are eating it as fast as it can grow, except for late in the season when they start to slow their eating down, then the vegetation starts to regrow. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a couple questions. Hi, Mark.
Yes.
Thank
hi.
you, Will and Mark, for all you do. What's the long term on the island closure? Like, what is it that you're really working on to try to get these islands opened up again?
Yeah. So one thing we have to sort of keep in mind about these islands is most of them are very small, and there are no facilities on those islands.
Yeah.
There are no restrooms. There's no trash pickup, right? So when these islands get overcrowded, we run into these health concerns on these islands. And one of the issues that we have had is people coming from launches being dropped off on the islands or wherever, and basically sort of ferrying out to the islands, right? And so then you have people on the island with no way off, so there's challenges there. So the goal for the islands is not to permanently close the islands, but to have a managed island recreational system of some kind. But it may take some legislation or some other actions to be able to manage these. And again, there's a little bit of there's a lot of people who play a role in this. The islands are, the ones we're generally talking about are owned by First Light. you have the towns that are involved, you have DEEP, especially NCON and boating. So there's a lot of different people to sort of coordinate to try to work through a long-term sustainable solution for them.
I'm just a little concerned because sometimes, even though everything you're mentioning is obviously a concern, sometimes it could create another problem. Like now, you're gonna have people on the boats just wandering around the lake because some of those islands they hold all these people and they just stay there for hours and hours.
So
Now-
one of the things that we talked about actually today, I mentioned that video series, and one of the efforts that we're going to put forth is a large educational effort to let people know that the islands are closed on the lake to prepare for that,
Yeah.
right? So, we don't want people to be surprised if they came, and always knew that they could go to certain islands. We want them to know in advance, the islands are closed, and here's the situation, so please plan accordingly.
I think a lot of the problem is coming from outside. I think a lot of the problem is coming from people that aren't from Danbury, New Milford, Shelter. I think the people are coming from New York, especially.
They were getting trashed.
And maybe there's another way we can look at it where we can have more securities at these public dots where people just go in and then, I think you need to look into that.
I know, Orlando, when we have the meetings of the towns, we actually had it here in New Milford. And a big thank you to DEEP as they were here. And we did ask for additional enforcement at those docks,
Yes.
those launching pads. Some of the other towns, Danbury, for instance, represented, New Fairfield, big concern about the, what are those things called? Jet skis.
Yeah, jet skis.
A majority of them unlicensed.
Correct.
That people were not licensed to do those coming on. So one of the things that we were concerned about is asking DEEP to help us come up with a plan. So before they even get into the water, we are assessing whether or not they're licensed, that they have the ability to safely boat there and also catch those parties that were doing substantial, for a big income, substantial ferrying of people to the bigger islands.
Correct.
To stay there. And I believe, Mark, you told me one of those nights the person that was ferrying them decided to leave and people were stuck on the island.
We got a call late at night. Our officers got off the water, I want to say around 11 o'clock that night or whatever, on their way home, and got a phone call that there was a call that came into dispatch that people were left stranded on the island. And
Can I add to that?
oh no, the numbers guy.
So our Marine Patrol, they went and got them, brought them to shore, but when they went to get them, they struck the prop of the boat. It caused $9,000 damage. They hit the
Pulling
they
into the
grounded
island.
the boat on the
the,
line.
the islands don't have,
So that's not something
docks.
that's not something I advocate that we continue to do.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a huge expense, right?
I don't blame you. All,
So-
all my, grown up life, people would go there, kids, but we never had this problem that they have now, because I do believe he's right, they're from out of town.
The problem is out of town. The problem, we saw this problem happen in New Fairfield, our neighboring town, with Swan's Pond, and
Yeah.
they did a study where it ended up being that they went from like 1,200 cars to like 200 now, and they posted on 684, they posted on 87, where they say Squan's Pond and New Fairfield is closed. So that has helped out a lot. I think we need to look at it that way, because even though, yes, having a lot of people in the islands is a safety issue, but people that are residents of the surrounding town, they need to enjoy. We have a short summer as it is in the Northeast, and they should be able to go to one of these islands and enjoy a morning or afternoon and not have that problem created by people that are coming in from outside, and we know it. So that's why I asked you, Mark, like, what are you guys doing? I know you meet with Pete and the other town heads, but what are we really doing to be able to solve this problem? Because this is a continuing problem that's upsetting a lot of people that buy jet skis, buy boats. And
I was going to say, we applaud you for your
Thank you.
passion. And
Thank you.
And we will count on your support.
Thank you, yes.
And I agree with you. The challenge is, I think the mayor said it earlier, it's coming, how they get onto the water. And that's where we need, we need help from, as Mark said earlier, multiple.
It's
folks.
a lot of it is managing the access to the lake, and it's making sure that, you know, there is management of all things on the lake. We talk about island management, but managing the access, and when people come to the lake, you know, have you gone through a safety inspection? Do you have, you know, your license and things like that? And are you, you know, so, and potentially legislative as well. The one challenge of the lake is that there are a lot of access points to the lake. You know, we talk about, you know, there are 2 state launches, there are 5 municipal launches. We have something like 65 lake communities on the lake, almost all of which have their own launches. So there is a lot of access to the lake, and that provides a challenge both recreationally as well as environmentally. We're trying to prevent invasive species from coming into the lake, and safety.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of the people that come up in a boat, they haven't got the idea what's the front and what's the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, the lake's
And
open to everybody,
Correct.
Yeah.
which is, you know, something that it's very, very interesting. We went up to Lake George and we had to pay money to go put our boats in the water. Lake George, state of Connecticut, you don't have to pay anything. So I agree with you. We have a lot of folks coming in there. So, but we need your help, and the mayor's been great. We need your help as well too. If your voice is loud enough to help us with the other folks that we have to deal with,
And I
and the
know
authorities that
on
would
the
help us.
state
with.
on the state
Correct.
side of it, because there needs to be legislation,
Yes.
because it's run by DEP. First Light has been very helpful for us, I know, working with them. As Representative Callahan, he's been kind of the front person when it comes to really working legislatively wise of how we can make that lake, which is the largest lake in the state, a more safe one, and to look at different types of enforcements, because you're exactly right. People that live here or near from here should be able to enjoy that lake, not having to worry about, you know, having to step on a lake that is full of trash, dirty diapers,
I agree.
all that stuff, and have a nice safe time and enjoy that wonderful resource that we have.
You know, we say that, you know, we need to, you know, treat the lake, manage the lake like it's a park, you know, and really think about it as one, and really push for that, and respect it, because it's incredibly valuable to this entire area.
And for all those people that bought a home to live on the lake or have lived there forever, you know, it's just really, you know, it's terrible, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, I was just curious because I remember using the lake. I'm dating myself since the early 1950s. At least my family has since that time. At that time, it was unusual to have a boat with more than 35 horsepower. Once in a while, 50. What is there any way to control that today? Because now you're in multiple hundreds of horsepower.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So horsepower is not controlled on the lake, and I mean, the boat that I started water skiing on had a 40 horsepower Evinrude on the back, you know, and did just fine, you know.
Water ski behind it the whole bit. You know, it was enough.
Yep. So, you know, and back then, if you recall, pontoon boats also used to have about a 40 horse, and there was a putt-putt. Now pontoons, some of them have twin 400s on the back, right? I mean, it's, you know, so horsepower is not regulated on the lake. There are 2 regulations for the lake that sort of play a role in that, in that the lake does have a speed limit, both daytime and nighttime. So daytime is 45 miles an hour, nighttime is 25 miles an hour. So there is that regulation. And in addition, it's not a horsepower regulation, but there was a regulation specific to Candlewood put in about 13 years ago. I think it was 2012, which was the length limit on the lake. So boats were restricted to being under 26 feet in length.
That came up the first time. I used to work at the Atlantis Marina one summer for a while. That came up to limit because people were coming with bigger and bigger boats. And I hate to tell you, that was about 1972, and it took till you just said 2017 before it happened.
Well, our previous executive director used to always say, well, before that regulation came into effect, if somebody could figure out a way to back the Queen Mary down the ramp, they could do it. It would be allowed, right? So,
that's right.
So it did come in.
Well, I'm glad. What's the maximum length now?
Under 26 feet, so essentially 2511, under 26. It's sort of as Coast Guard categorization of lengths go.
Is there any houseboats left on the lake?
I'm sorry?
Any houseboats left on the lake?
Not really. I mean, it's interesting. The boats on the lake have shifted so much to pontoon boats, which never used to be, because they used to be sort of, you know, like what your parents would go out on, right?
Well, that's what's creating the problem.
Yeah.
Pontoon boats are driving, 15.
Well, one of the issues is, if you can imagine, on it, we find that it's really obviously, sort of the hottest and sunniest days, and you get really a lot of boating pressure. And so when you add a lot of boats, and you add things like speed, and you add potentially inexperienced boaters, I mean, it's even for an experienced boater, sometimes your head is on a swivel watching, because there's no lanes, right? So you're watching. So it can be a big challenge on those busy weekends, and our officers are going from one call to the next to the next to the next, and they are just one after the other. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mark?
Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, well,
Try.
we're going to be at
Keep
it
trying.
this year again,
Awesome.
and we appreciate your
guys.
support.
Thank you and good luck.
That's the one thing I want to say. You guys have been great, and we really do appreciate it. I think, financially, Will and the team has done a great job. Mark's done a great job getting it organized. You can see, I've been here for 5 years, and we've done a lot of work in the last 5 years, a tremendous turnaround. So I think, as Mark said, the lake's now 100 years old. We're 55 years old. The world has really changed dramatically. Regulations haven't changed dramatically. Legislation hasn't changed. And that's why he said we're going to be looking to make those changes, which is to protect this great asset that we have in front of us. So we will be looking for your support out there. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to see you, Marty.
Good to see you.
All right. Walter.
We
Yeah.
won't adjourn.
Board of Finance, motion to recess to Tuesday, February 24th at 7 PM. Second, all in favor?
Thank you. For the council, motion to recess until Tuesday, February 24th.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah. Thank you, Thanks, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, if anybody.